Good morning, everybody, dignitaries, students, and my faculty colleague. So it is a great pleasure for us to get you on board to this inauguration program, though it is online. So our chief guest today, Mr. Lakshmi Narayan of Cognizant, and our honorable guest, Dr. Bharat sir, is already here. So before the process starts, I request Professor Manjula, the chairperson of our admission team, to give a big profile of the students to the guests and all. Over to Manjula, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Gautam. So happy morning to one and all present over here, and particularly Lakshmi Narayan sir and Bharat sir. We are happy to have you as our inaugural guest over here. So on behalf of Tyagaraja School of Management, I welcome the postgraduate diploma students, the batch of 2022. This is a very special batch indeed, you know, the pandemic batch, the so-called COVID batch, which would have its own place in the history of TSM forever. So I'm glad to quote that in spite of the COVID situations, we have successfully completed the whole of the admission process. And the admission committee, to my knowledge, has traveled with a few of the candidates present over here for the past 1 year. Ever since the last admission process, they have been with us, inquiring, getting counseled, and then taking exams. And now they are here as our PGDM students. So majority of the students have, onboarded us with the WhatsApp group since April. And we have been connected with them like a family, and I think now by this time they are very comfortable. So though it is an online mode this time, but still I don't see much of difference between connecting and networking with the students. So this batch is a batch of elite students wherein we notice that they are very ambitious and they have embedded the motto of learn to learn, and I feel that even my colleagues would agree with that, because we have seen that they have been expressing their ambition all throughout the webinars that we have been conducting. Lot of interactions and a lot of questions and presenting themselves that happened. And we have a mix of both arts and science and engineering graduates here. This batch particularly, we have almost equal ratio of arts and science background students with the engineering students. And almost the gender is also equal, like girls versus boys ratio. And to quote, I would personally appreciate few students. See, many of them have applied from northeastern states and the neighboring states like Andhra and Telangana and Kerala. But many of them have been having that fear factor of pandemic, and only few have onboarded us this year. Particularly, I would appreciate my friends from Andhra and Kerala. And to make a note, here we have Anushwa Basu from West Bengal, Kolkata. Many of the boys, even from Chennai, had a fear of this pandemic, and they withdrew, to be very honest with you. But Anushwa stayed connected with us, and she took a bold decision that she will connect with TSM, and I think we have very positive feedbacks from her. And so this indicates that there are students who have been trusting on our quality, and they have been continuing to stay with us. So having said this, we see a light in the dark only. So in this pandemic situation, I think this is a very good opportunity to explore these learning possibilities, and each one of us have been taking it on a very positive note, and it has given us a lot of learning. So learn to learn is our motto, and with this motto, I would ensure that we have a good team of faculty over here to deliver whatever is expected from your end, and hopefully we will travel together to see a new normal era. So thank you once again to all of you present over here, and we have got way to go. Welcome on behalf of TSM.
Thank you, Dr. Manjula, for briefing us the profile of our candidates this year. Now I request Director Sir to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Lakshmi Narayan. Over to you, sir. Sir, on mute.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to TSM. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our chief guest, Sri Lakshmi Narayanan. Sri Lakshmi Narayanan is a technology industry professional with over 30 years of experience in Europe, India, and the United States. His leadership experience includes corporate governance, customer relationship management, and organization strategy. As a founding member of Cognizant, he had been responsible for providing leadership for the company's high-touch customer relationship and delivery excellence model. In his role as a vice chairman of Cognizant, prior to his retirement, he guided strategic programs around customer advocacy, education, training, and leadership development. He is a past chairman of NASSCOM and was a member of board of US-India Business Council. Sri Lakshmi Narayanan has received awards and recognition from industry, media, and academia. He is an alumnus of Bangalore University and the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and has pursuits in inclusive growth, education, and nonprofits through Cognizant Foundation and other institutions like the United Way. His focus on higher education includes institutions like the Chennai Mathematical Institute, Tyagarajar School of Management as a member of Board of Governors, and the ICT Academy as its chairman. He is passionate about entrepreneurship. In addition to making a number of investments, he is active in TIE, Chennai, and the Chennai Angels. He serves on the board of TVS Capital Funds, Shriram Capital, Kasturi and Sons Digital Venture. Now, please join me in welcoming Sri Lakshmi Narayanan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
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 Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Okay.
Morning.
Glad. Okay, allow the speaker to speak, please. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Let me welcome all the students to the Tyagaraja School of Management. All of you are coming into the postgraduate education. You have had foundations in education, whether you're coming from the engineering or the science or the arts or the commerce stream. That is becoming increasingly not so relevant. The management education is something that is going to level that as you progress. Now with the new education policy, the younger students have the choice of the subjects of their liking. It could be a combination of science, commerce, arts, and economics and sociology and things like that. But the fundamental philosophy is to learn those that you are passionate about, that you're interested in, that you want to make a career in, that you seek a purpose in. All of you have chosen a good higher education path in terms of management education and a good institution, TSM, which has a good reputation for 100% placement. People from this college have gone out to succeed in the financial services industry, and some of them have become successful entrepreneurs too. We have a dedicated team of teachers, professors, and other staff who are single-mindedly committed to educating the students that go through the portals of TSM. Welcome. You're rightly the 2022 batch, and when you come out after earning the MBA or the PGDM degree, the world is going to look very different. If you look at what are the major changes that are likely to happen in the year 2022, there are several. First and foremost, in 2022, India will become the most populous country in the world. We will be bigger than China in terms of population. That's the trajectory of growth that we are pursuing, which is a big positive because we'll be the largest market, largest set of consumers and buyers in the world. And everyone would want to sell their products and services in the Indian marketplace. Services that are developed and created by companies like Google or Microsoft, or e-commerce companies like Amazon or Flipkart, any of those. This is a ground that they do not use. That's a big advantage that in the year 2022. And of course, technological changes will be rampant. The type of technology that we have experienced in the last 6 months, 8 months, I'm sure not many of you would have gone through your classes in college using video conferences and webinars and Zoom and Google Meet and devices like this for your education. That's a fundamental change. It talks about how digital technologies, and I talk about digital technologies, it is the computers and the communications, has revolutionized the way we seek services, the way we learn, the way we conduct business, and the way we project ourselves, etc. So digital is something that is going to be an integral part of everyday life. And I would encourage all of you to embrace the digital technologies, the new technologies of 4G, 5G, communication, medical devices. There are so many devices that are coming about. Keep an eye on what's happening in that world. Experiment with that during your regular work time as well as outside work time, because digital technologies that makes life easy, more productive, more efficient, more entertaining, and more wholesome is here to stay, and that will only keep improving. I'll just give you 2 examples. The way we interact with computers now is using keyboard. The way we interact with our call center or service providers is through voice and telephone, but they constantly urge you to use the computer, the mail, or the text or WhatsApp messages. Now, very soon, these things would get lower down in priority, and voice and natural language will become an interface, some kind of a universal interface when we interact with machines and also people. You can talk in your mother tongue to, let us say, if you have a Vodafone phone or a Jio and there has been a wrong billing, you should be able to call them up and get all the clarifications in your natural language in an easy manner. And the person who's answering your questions on the other side may or may not be a human being. It may be a machine which is able to talk very much like the way you and I talk in our natural language. So language is going to be, voice is going to be one of the key technologies that will enable inclusion of the billions of people that come into stream. Imagine people in our Indian villages. They're not familiar with using an iPad or a tablet or a smartphone or a laptop that like all of you are. How would they interact? How would they get their services? If we enable them with voice-based capabilities, then they can also participate in the growth and be included in the digital revolution that is happening. And those are things that will start happening by 2022. 2022, another interesting thing. Computer vision is something that will be able to do several things, including identifying our mental health based on our voice, the way we speak, as well as the way we interact, the eye movement. And most importantly, devices will be available to correct some of the vision problems that we have. I don't know how many of you know about color blindness. There are several people who suffer from color blindness. They haven't seen, they cannot recognize several colors. Everything is shades of black and white and gray. There is a glass that's available, and when you wear it, you'll be able to see all the colors. People with color blindness will no longer have to suffer that problem. Of course, they have to learn the names of all those colors that they see, but apart from that, that's a handicap that they no longer need to suffer. So that's the type of technology world that is coming in. What enables all these technologies to deliver benefit to all the citizens is the basic underlying financial system. When you create a product, When a new product comes, it has to be sold. Somebody has to buy. The company that makes it has to be profitable. There has to be investments that are made. And that's fundamental to everything that happens in business. Money, finance, lending, interest rates, etc., which is an extremely important thing for business professionals like you. A grounding in finance is as essential, if not more essential, than a grounding in the new digital world and the digital technologies. You may or may not choose a career in the financial field. You may join a bank. You may not join a bank, but understanding finances, understanding returns, understanding equity, understanding how the business models work, understanding how the revenue models work, etc., are going to be extremely important. So keep this in mind. Digital and finance are two important things that will be an underpinning of everything that you learn. And that is something that you should use as a scale or a barometer for measuring how much you have learned in all these areas. So these are some basic things that are likely to happen in 2022, but then there are going to be several other things. India will probably have its first person doing either a spacewalk or going around the earth in space. Launching a man into space is the mission that India is after, that it is expected to achieve in 2022. Other countries are going to achieve several other things. There's going to be nuclear power based on fusion, which is going to improve the climate conditions in the environment in this world. Probably a significant number of you, in fact, almost all of you, will have a different type of responsibility in 2022. You will be a consumer of the future. In 2022, you will have a job. You'll be an earning member. You will pursue a career as a manager, grow to be a manager in some company, or you may start your own business with good grounding on finance and the technologies, information technologies. But most importantly, all the brands will look at you as a consumer. You have money in your pocket because you have a job. They would want to sell you everything. They would want to sell you the best smartphone in the world. They would want to sell you the best perfume. They would want to sell you their products as the best jeans, best what have you. You are the king. People will be attracted to you because your profile has changed from being a student to being a professional with earning capacity. And with that comes responsibility. Not only will you have to make the decisions of the things that you use, maybe either to someone else who's making the decision, but now you have to own up that decision. And not only are you treated like a king by all these brands, they would want you to influence other people that you know to buy their products. They'll constantly be asking you to refer. Hey, you're a Jio customer. You've got a Jio friend. Name 3 or 4 friends to whom we can sell a Jio phone or a Jio broadband. Because the respect that you would earn as a consumer, you bought it. You have a certain reputation. You can influence your friends and cohorts. So that's the position that you will get to. Being a consumer is one of the best things that can happen in India at this stage, because you'll be pampered with all kinds of offers. Banks will be after you to open an account. Every bank would want to give you a credit card. Every insurance company will come and tell you how their product is the best, and so on. So that's a position that you will start to enjoy. But with that comes a whole lot of responsibility for appropriate decision making. Keep that in mind when you buy, when you become a consumer, when you become a responsible wage earner as you progress in this world. And why am I saying you have to be responsible? The decision making is not easy. Let's take, for example, when you become a consumer, one of the first things that most people look at is personal mobility. They would want to buy either a two-wheeler or a car or something in order to get by. And that's also, in addition to being a functional utilitarian vehicle, it is also a status symbol. Now, in 2022, the electric vehicles, electric scooters, electric cars would have made such a big gains, delivered such rapid growth that you will be presented with a choice. Should I go for ICE or internal combustion engine technology, or should I go for electric? Which is a more responsible decision? What is it that I'd like to do? So those are the type of opportunities that you'll be presented with. Those are the type of challenges that you'll have to think about deeply and take decisions. And the same thing happens as far as your career choice is concerned. Would you like to work with a company which is manufacturing, let's say, petrol and diesel engines and petrol and diesel vehicles? Or would you like to be part of an industry that has growth in the future? An electric battery manufacturer, or an electric vehicle manufacturer, or something like that. Those are career choices that you will have to make, and you will learn, you'll get the necessary tools to make those choices in the next 2 years. But those are things that you will have to own responsibility for, own up and take those type of decisions. And with those decisions, it's not as though the future technologies, the electric vehicles are the answer to everything. The people who have invested in traditional businesses will not keep quiet. They will continue to innovate. Have you heard of Royal Enfield? Royal Enfield Bullet motorbikes, one of the aspirational motorbikes. Hundreds of years old, started during the wartime. Okay. I've got a small snippet about that company that I'll read out for you. This is a company, a Royal Enfield motorcycle that was designed by a British and a French engineer during World War II. The logo of that company then was, it's made like a gun and goes like a bullet. That's how it got the name Bullet. They haven't kept quiet. Although the company was in trouble, in 1949, Madras Motors began importing Bullet motorcycles to India, and soon after won a contract to supply 800 motorcycles to the Indian Army. The English company became non-operational in 1970, and the Indian company subsequently bought the name and rights, ensuring that Royal Enfield remained in continuous production. A design that's built to last and never ceases to inspire us. Nobody can write that bike off. It's a niche market. There is a new Himalayan bike that is there, and they are innovative too. They can see the reading on the wall. They are working on an electric version of the Royal Enfield motorbike, which should be in the market, hopefully within months and years of you graduating. So the dynamics of this industry is changing. The dynamics is changing because of the current pandemic that we are experiencing. There are so many new products and opportunities that have come about. There are companies that have transformed themselves. Indians have played a key role. All of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the product Dettol. Dettol, Lysol, Harpic cleaning, sanitary products. Booming sales during this time. And look at all the innovations that they have done based on that product. The traditional Dettol that we all know is Dettol liquid in a bottle. Now Dettol is available in spray form, in soap form. Dettol is manufacturing and distributing masks that are sanitized. And Dettol is coming up with has come out already on an experimental base. With those of you, the boys here in this, a shaving cream. No one ever thought that Dettol would expand that category and go into adjacent categories and be a leader in those. So that's innovation. That's innovation starting with an idea, and they execute it and deliver benefits. And people like you, the business people, look at that innovation equation to begin with in the opposite direction. An innovator looks at an idea and how to execute it, deliver the benefits. You come from the opposite spectrum and say, hey, start with the benefit. What is the benefit that a product or service delivers? Is it marketable? How big is the opportunity? Is there a business model to sell it? Is there a revenue model to make profits out of that? How do we execute that? And so on. You know, cases like Royal Enfield, Dettol are impressive stories. Dettol particularly, the company, parent company, Reckitt and Benckiser, the global CEO of that company is an Indian. Like many other companies are, globally, managers who have got trained, who have had management education in India, are doing extremely well in global corporations, in the areas of finance, in the areas of retail, and so on. So coming back to the important thing that I mentioned, that you have responsibility as a consumer, as you graduate and fulfill the aspirations that you have and the aspirations that the family and friends have. And the final point that I want to make is about the next 2 years. We have seen how fortunate you are, how the opportunities are going to unfold in 2022, what way to look at the world from that point onwards. But now, how do we prepare? This is a fantastic time. The 2 years is a fantastic time to prepare. So much of time in your hands. The methods may be different. Methods of delivery of content may be different. Methods of interaction among yourselves may be different. It's the physical contact, doing group study, working on projects together as teams. You will be working in virtual backgrounds. That method may be different, but the outcome is expected to be the same. Outcome of what you have learned, outcome of what critical thinking abilities that you have gained, outcome of what analytical thinking and logical reasoning that you've been imparted or you've gained in this process will be the same, if not better. And those are the things that you need to focus on in a very, very committed manner. There are people available to help you. And the more initiative that you take, the more successful you and all the others are going to be. Because when you come out in 2022, it's not going to be the world teaching you. It's not going to be the world that's guiding you. It's not going to be the world that's going to skill you to be successful. You have to take the initiative, the learning, the necessary hard work to chalk out a path and succeed yourself. Taking that initiative that suits your passion, your desire, your aspiration is extremely important. What can you do during this period? One of the things that I would encourage all of you to do is, this is a great opportunity to listen to people from anywhere in the world. Earlier, we had constrained ourselves by limiting to listening to people who could come to the camps and address us in a large auditorium. It's a self-imposed restriction. We needn't have done it that way. It took a pandemic for us to come out of that and explore Zoom and video conferencing facilities like that. Now that we have learned this and are familiar, we can get anyone from anywhere in the world to come and talk to us and teach us whatever we want to learn. And that's an initiative that students and groups of students in your batch will have to take. Form a group. There are plenty of people to support. I can personally support identifying people who can come and talk to you. Encourage them. Spend 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. Talk every week or twice a week and learn from them. Second, take the initiative to encourage companies to make a pitch to you using the virtual facilities. Many of the new companies are struggling, particularly the pharmaceutical companies who are used to selling to medical professionals, to hospitals, etc., are finding it difficult to have their sales representatives go to these hospitals and sell their products and talk about the products. They're trying to demonstrate using virtual labs, simulation models, etc. And those are areas that students like you can help with your innovative ideas. Encourage them to come and participate in some of their challenges, share their problems with you so that you can jointly find solutions together. Those companies will be happy and willing, just as individuals will be willing to come and help you, and so on. So it's only limitless number of ideas that you have to keep yourself engaged, to learn, to push the institution, to push the faculty to deliver more and more, so that when you leave this institution, you'll be a far more well-rounded individual with great values and discipline so that you can play a responsible role in society. And the final point that I want to make is about discipline, values, and behaving with honesty and integrity at all times. There is no one anywhere in the world who has succeeded enormously by taking shortcuts or by taking devious means or devious methods. But there have been a number of examples of people who have accomplished early success because of their character, because of the trust that they've been able to build with their employers. The moment you are seen as a disciplined, hardworking person with integrity, truthful, that trust increases several fold and people will give you responsibility. It's that responsibility that's the ladder for growth in your career. And I encourage all of you to be constantly mindful of those values and be successful human beings and citizens and enjoy an extremely profitable career and purpose all your life. Wish you all the best and once again, welcome you to TSM. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
We have a couple of questions from the students. No, don't take much of your time. The first question is from Danny. He says, everyone says that India will recover from this pandemic effect only in 2022. What's your view? In the sense, some talk about the V-shaped recovery, U-shaped recovery. So what's your, and RBI recently said that the entire year is going to be negative growth. What's your take on it, sir? Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to predict what kind of a recovery it is going to be. The financial pundits are divided as to how that recovery is going to happen. But the recovery is something that is dependent on finding a solution to this pandemic. The faster a vaccine, a faster a therapeutic cure is found for this disease, for this pandemic, the faster will people be encouraged to get back to their work in the normal course, and the faster will be the recovery. And there has been significant progress that has been made. Only day before yesterday, I was in a webinar with people, with the director in Apollo Hospital, with an epidemiologist, and with the CEO and the founder of Bharat Biotechnology Company, the Bharat Biotech in Hyderabad, which has the first vaccine coming out of India that is undergoing trial. I'll tell you what the CEO of Bharat Biotech said in this meeting, where he was addressing close to about 100, 120 people, a lot of medical professionals. First and foremost, he said people in India seem to think that only the multinationals outside the country like GSK, Merck, Sanofi, AstraZeneca are capable of coming up with a vaccine. And people seem to have a greater trust in those than any of the products coming out of India. As a vaccine manufacturer, as a person who has come up with the pandemic vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, the first company in India, he was pleading and stating that Indians are as good as any in molecular biology, cellular biology, in vaccine testing, creation, etc. The method that they have adopted is to have these actual COVID-19 viruses, grow them, inactivate them so that they don't multiply and use that as vaccine. This is the traditional method by which vaccines are made. And they're saying they are well on their way. He wouldn't give a date, but he said India is one of the key players in not just the vaccine development, but in vaccine distribution also. So once that happens, then things will fall in place. And I'm very hopeful that the recovery will be far faster than we all think at this point in time. I'll just give you one example and leave that number with you. The prediction for growth this year, the GDP growth for India is something like minus 4.5, minus 5, could be a negative area. But the prediction for 21-22, by the end of March 22, as you come out of the colleges, India is expected to grow at least between 4 and 6%, which means a swing of close to about 10%, 9 to 10%. That's the growth that we are going to experience from now. till the time that you're going to come out. And that's going to create a lot of opportunities. So it's not something to worry about.
We have two questions relevant to the electric cars and electric motorcycles. One from Jaya Balaji and Ajit Kumar. He says, for a country like India, do you think it's really feasible to have electric motorcycles and cars? And so says that, is the electric cars really eco-friendly? So your take on that?
Yeah, it is feasible. If it is feasible in any country, it is feasible. In if two-wheelers that are running, it's essentially replacing many of the ICE, the petrol and diesel-based vehicles by electric vehicles. It's even more easy by attaching a battery-powered motor to bicycles, which will empower so many people who are disadvantaged to have a faster mobility. So it's immensely possible. If anything, we are one of the largest markets as far as electric vehicles are concerned. Electric vehicles, both private mobility, that is our own vehicles, as well as public space, public buses, and which is the largest user of electric batteries now in terms of orders that have been placed? It is the tractor industry, farm equipment. These are the people, the tractors, electric powered, battery powered tractors are already selling in large numbers. So the market for that is high. Why is it that it is not taken off to the extent it has to? One, because of charging technology, charging availability, but more importantly, the chemistry behind it. The lithium-ion batteries are a significant improvement over the lead-acid batteries that we have seen. But lithium-ion batteries also are undergoing tremendous levels of change. The new ferrous phosphate lithium-ion batteries are more efficient, and people are trying to understand the battery technology. I'll give you a simple clue. The charging cycle and the discharging cycles have to be matched when we use batteries. Many of us make the mistake when we have our own cell phones. There are devices that come with it. How often do we use other devices? Fast charging methods. Fast charging methods are appropriate for fast draining devices. Slow charging is appropriate for slow discharging devices. If we keep that, the battery life is much longer. But we don't know that. Many people have to be educated about matching the cycles and so on. So electric vehicles and batteries will become safe. And people argue that anyway they have to be charged, and charging is based on thermal and coal power stations. Anyway, we are polluting. Increasingly, more and more nuclear power is being used to produce electricity, which is environment friendly, which is becoming very, very safe. India is also launching thorium-based program. Thorium is proliferation resistant. These are technologies that you will see in your lifetime, where they're environmentally friendly, highly efficient, and climate change is not something that you'll talk about after 15 or 20 years because we would have got a handle on it.
The next question is from Lakshmi Narasimhan. He says, what's your take on the MSME sectors? Because by this pandemic, the MSME sector is completely crushed. And do you really think that they can cope up with the competition from the giant competitors, the large scale companies?
No, MSME companies are the largest job creators, and in absolute numbers, they are the largest. The MSME count runs into millions. The borrowings that the MSMEs have from the banks for either their working capital or investment in capital expenditure, etc., is very, very high. So, which is the reason why you will see every government, state or central government, constantly talking about MSMEs, because without the MSMEs, the big companies cannot survive. MSMEs offer scale, offer components, offer specialization, because of which bigger companies buy products and services from them. Big companies have limitations in terms of innovation. MSMEs innovate constantly. So they are fundamental to large industry. None of the big industries can survive without MSMEs. And they are getting a lot of benefits. The government is paying special attention to them, and hopefully they'll recover as fast as they went into this cycle.
Last question, sir. This is from Mr. S. Arun Kumar. He says whether the technological developments like artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, Industry 4.0, will it create the max job opportunities and like, or it's going to replace the humans by machines? What's your take on this?
It's a good question. It is going to replace several jobs, but it is going to create new types of jobs. Really new types of jobs, both in the services sector, but much more importantly, the products sector. Tell you one example, the medical devices area. There are all kinds of devices that have come about. People have started manufacturing PPEs, ventilators, medical devices that you can constantly wear, you know, the oximeters. During this time, everyone wants to buy one and keep checking the oxygen levels in the blood. So the medical devices industry has been one of the highest recruiters over the last 7 months, just the devices industry. And of course, medical professionals, nurses, some of the retired or people in the, retired doctors have been called into service because of demand for those types of services. So we go through those type of cycles. I'll tell you one example. Call centers. We are used to calling up and being answered by call center agents. Increasingly, that will be replaced by voice chat bots. The person will vanish and the machine will answer. It will understand the mood. It will understand that you're angry and appropriately answer. So some of those jobs will go away, but there'll be jobs created which will create these bots. We have to train the machine. You have to develop scripts for them, etc. So if we lose some jobs in one area, there will be jobs that are created in another area. So the career choice that you have to make is to carefully understand, analyze, and say, which are the growth areas for the future? Which are the companies that are making investments in research and development so that there'll be future growth opportunities? Segments are clear: pharma, healthcare, information technology, space and aviation. There's going to be supersonic flights. Renewable energy, you know, these are areas where investments are high, therefore job creation is high, therefore opportunities are also high. There may be other areas, you know, would you like to go and work in a thermal power station? Maybe not, because that's a kind of a dying industry. So ups and downs.
Thank you very much, sir, for the inspiring speech.
Enjoyed this interaction. All the very best to you.
Yeah. Gautam, please.
Thank you, sir. So your insights regarding how the learnings will evolve with the technical advancement in this pandemic time will be very, very helpful for us. And we take note that, okay, our responsibility during this period for the future. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful insights. So now I request Dr. Balaji M, our chairperson MBA, to introduce another great speaker who is already here, Dr. Bharat, sir. Over to Balaji.
Good morning, all. It gives me immense pleasure in introducing Dr. Bharat Krishna Shankar. Dr. Bharat Krishna Shankar is the chairman of Aparajita Corporate Services Private Limited, headquartered at Madurai, which is into HR and compliances related KPO services. Bharat sir is a postgraduate in commerce, a national gold medalist, topper in both intermediate and final examinations in chartered accountancy course, and an associate of Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of India. He is a PhD from Madurai Kamaraj University. His doctoral thesis was on determinants of entrepreneurship and its impact on MSME sector sustainability in Madurai district. Bharat sir started Aparajita about 19 years back. The group has grown from just 10 people and a turnover of about rupees 20 lakh to a group of 1,400 core staff and over 8,000 deputy staff with a turnover of rupees 350 crores. The operations are spread all over India, covering about 1,500 locations with 27 branch offices. Aparajita Foundation, a trust promoted by the group, has started Thalir Thiran Thittam with the vision of creating a transformational change through awareness at the school level by giving school students an exposure to skills which are extremely important in life, but which are not covered through regular curriculum. This started in Tamil Nadu, and the Hindi version has now spread to Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, and Haryana, reaching about 1 crore of students in about 70,000 schools through the EduSat facility. Bharat sir is an exceptional coach and highly sought after mentor. He started Purnata in 2017 to create a supportive entrepreneurial ecosystem in the MSME space. He started this journey by mentoring a group of entrepreneurs through a program called Journey in Joy that covered 27 entrepreneurs with a total turnover of about rupees 1,050 crores and direct employee count of about 1,800 employees. Purnata hopes to utilize the perfect blend of homegrown values and concepts with international business practices from Michigan University of US to cater to the needs of local MSME entrepreneurs. He is a founding board member of Michigan Academy for Developing Entrepreneurs USA and is on the board of Indian Bank. He was the recipient of TIE Chennai's Entrepreneur of the Year Award for 2015. He is a past chairman of the Madurai Zone of CA and the vice chairman of Madurai Potruvam Committee. He is on the governing board of the RSS School of Management. He penned a column Smilingly Yours in the Hindu Metropolis, which was a series on management insights for young entrepreneurs and established businessmen alike. It gives me, again, immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Bharat sir again. Bharat sir, please.
Thank you, Balaji, for those very kind words of introduction. Very good morning to my colleagues in the board of TSM, to the faculty of TSM and the young friends who are joining us today. I will take the morning that each of you wish to Lakshmi as a good morning to me also. So let's just go ahead with what I have to share with you in the next 20 minutes. As Manjula ma'am was talking, she talked about how ambitious the group is and how learning to learn is something that you've already imbibed. Learning to learn being the mantra of TSM, which has stood the institution in very good stead all these days. Very interestingly, Mr. Lakshminarayan covered some very major topics at the macro level, touching upon how it could make a difference to you. And I thought I would delve into it a little more to talk about it from how you can use these 2 years in the campus to ensure that you get the maximum benefit out of the 2 years in TSM. Because TSM as an institution, as has been talked about in the board meetings again and again, as has been mentioned by Mr. Manikam Ramasamy, whenever he's spoken to us as a part of the board or as to any of us individually, is about adding value to these students in these 2 years' time. How does a student enter? How does a student exit? Has the institution made a significant difference to him? And can we actually metricize and see what kind of difference it has made to the student? This is something that has been his fond dream. And I think, given the situation that I think was mentioned earlier, this is a very, very special group, a very different group in terms of how it will go down in history, not only in your own lives, but also in the annals of TSM as to how this entire course has been handled for the next 2 years. And once the first time is done, then it becomes a new normal that all of us will get used to subsequently. So I've attended several inaugurations of TSM, but this is the first time one is doing it through an online Zoom meet, where probably one is not able to really appreciate or understand the body language or the question or how we are connecting to the audience. Looking at a screen with a few faces, with some blanks, with some videos off there, is a new experience to many of us as speakers also, even though we may have been addressing these kind of inauguration sessions or other sessions over years. I think this is something that we are getting used to and we are waking up to the new reality. What would I want to share with you as far as these 2 years are concerned? Mr. Lakshminarayan was very, very right when he talked about how these 2 years have to be used. And I just wanted to leave you with 3 mantras, if I will, in terms of how you can actually use this 2 years phenomenally well. And let me start with what he talked about in terms of your responsibility as customers and how decision-making is going to be a major, major point as you go forward. So the first mantra that I would like to share with you is, I watch my decisions. Please ensure that you start thinking about how you make your decisions even when you are going through this 2-year process. There are very simple decisions like, do you want to keep your video on or do you want to keep your video off at this point of time? There are some people who have kept their video on. There are some people who have kept their video off. There are people who are constantly shifting between the two. As the other speaker was talking, I was able to understand even that is a decision that one is not able to make. And I'm sure you've had very major thought processes in your mind. What attire should I wear this morning? Will I be seen by people? Because unlike a group where you will not be seen when we are talking from stage, right? We see you as a group. The woods and the trees are not very different, right? We see the whole woods, we see the whole group. We can only catch the eyes of one or two. But believe me, you should understand that as speakers, when we talk on online, right, we all of us are seen above our maybe the entire face is fully seen and at close quarters. So even every small gesture of yours is visible to the speaker, and therefore you have to take extra care on how you present yourself. A very simple decision, but that becomes a decision also for you to take from that onwards. So as Manjula was saying from Bengal, should I come to this course? Am I ready? At this COVID time, is it okay for me to go to a different place and take a course? Should I do MBA at all? Have all been decisions, and you will continue to make simple decisions right from the choice of electives to how you would match between the course time and any extracurricular activity that comes up and anything else that you want to follow personally, including maintaining your health and your hobbies, are going to be decisions that become very, very important as you move along. Why am I saying this? Simply because this 2 years is an excellent time for introspection on how you make your decisions. That's why I said watch your decisions, because it is normally said what happens is you sow a thought, you reap an act. You sow an act, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character and you reap a destiny. And all of you are here to reap a destiny, which means the way you sow a thought, the way you make a decision can make a phenomenal difference in terms of how you look at life and how you go forward. Some of us are very rash. We tend to think that we don't think much. We're very good at making decisions. The moment a problem comes, I'm quick at making decisions. So there are some people who take enormous amount of time to perfect the decision, that it is like a millipede wondering which foot I have to keep ahead to make a decision, and a millipede will never move forward if it is wondering about which foot it has to keep and take forward. These are two extremes of how decisions are made. One, a quick, rash, jumping in decision. At the other end, so much of aim for perfection that procrastination happens always and you never make a decision. Now, not that all of us are given to this, but these are temperaments that each of us have. Use these 2 years to watch yourself on how you make decisions and arrive at a middle ground for yourself. For every small decision, don't get confused. What soap should I use? What shirt should I wear? Are comparatively simpler decisions for which you don't have to think too much, and look at how you're making those decisions. On the other hand, very importantly, when you're on campus, how are you going to spend your time? Mr. Lakshminarayanan said that you will have lots of time, right? But constantly, students like to believe that they have no time. And I would say that what he said is truer than what you believe. And that's a statement that I'm making after 30 years of having finished college. But you will have to experience yourself to understand how you plot your time, how you spend your time. How do you ensure that you have time enough for academics, you have time enough for hobbies, you have time enough to develop relationships, you have time enough to ensure that you understand the basics of your own numbers, and you have time enough to concentrate on your health also, because all these together make you a complete individual. And believe me, the advantage of TSM, as I have seen it, is when people stay in campus, there is a huge possibility of how you can optimize time. Can we always get the maximum use of all our decisions? Maybe not. But so long as you're able to optimize it, it should be fine. So the first mantra I repeat is to watch your decisions, because your decisions define you. Your decisions will define you as a student. Your decisions will define you as a person going forward. Many times in TSM, you will get fabulous opportunities either to be as interns in certain organizations, or to work on extracurricular activities, or to support the faculty with their research projects, and so on and so forth. But it is very easy to say that I'm so overburdened by my academics that I can do nothing else. My suggestion will be not to miss any of those opportunities. At least 1 or 2 additional activities other than academics would be very, very important for you to look at. An additional point on decision making is your participation in social media. This is very important because people are constantly looking at you and making their impressions about you without your knowing it. Just like I said, you may not be knowing that I'm watching you keenly, but in online, it's easier for me to watch you than when I'm on stage. Equally, social media makes your thought process available to so many people out there. And whether they are your recruiters tomorrow, whether they are your colleagues, people are constantly watching you and making their impressions based on that. And therefore, watch your decisions define you. The second mantra, constantly we are looking around and thinking that, is this person trustworthy? Can I deal with him? How do people act that I can trust them? Turn it a little this side and raise the question, are you trustworthy? Are you earning your trust? Are you behaving in such a manner that people can trust you? And that is going to make a significant difference when you move forward in your lives as professionals and in your personal life too. So the second mantra will be, I earn my trust. Because faith that many of us have, many of us are believers and many of us have a faith, and that certitude comes without any proof. But trust is a certitude which comes only with proof. By repeat demonstration that you are trustworthy, by repeatedly acting in a consistent way that people can trust you, is the only way you can earn trust. Now, it is very comfortable for you to choose friends. Please follow this very carefully. In a campus situation, we are very comfortable choosing our own friends. We move with people whom we are comfortable with. And the teachers, by their very profession, are interested in supporting us and bringing out the best in us. But when you move into an organization, you will not be working with people of your choice. You will be forced to work with people whom you may personally like, may not personally like, whose traits personally you may be comfortable with, not comfortable with. But one thing that will make a significant difference to you in your careers is how can you act in such a way that you earn trust and people believe that you're trustworthy. That's why I said that it's important that when you are in campus, check up, are you behaving in such a way that people trust you? Whether it is your teachers, whether it is your colleagues, whether it is anybody whom you interact with, are you behaving in such a way that people can trust you? And that comes only with consistency. Trust is not earned in a day. Trust is earned over months. And unfortunately, it is very difficult to build up, but very easy to pull down. One act which is not in place can pull down all the trust that has been built over so many years. Now, it may sound like advice. I mean, you in your age, typically, anybody who sees you, I think one thing that they would go ahead with is to give you advice. And many times youngsters, particularly the age group of 16 to 24, would wonder, what is it that whenever people talk to me, they get into this advice mode and decide what I should be doing. But having said that, I still believe that you people have a phenomenal choice in TSM to ensure that you look at yourself, introspect more, and act in such a way that you're very, very trustworthy, that people around you and even your professors believe that here is an individual whom I can trust this task with. So I watch my decisions, I earn my trust. The third, I intensify my effort. Many of us are dreamers. We like to believe we are very strategic thinkers. I've come across very many youngsters of your age group, which is great to be dreamers, right? To have visions, to say that I want to change the world in whatever way I can. There is nothing wrong about it. Having big, audacious goals is something that visions are made of, and without dreams, there is absolutely no action that is possible. But having said that, dreams by themselves do not suffice. Because vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. And they have to go hand in hand for you to ensure that there is a translation of whatever you're doing into effort. And many of us are capable of reasonable decision making at times, but our problem is implementation. Because implementation is about thoroughness, implementation is about detailing, implementation is about hard work, implementation is about sweat, implementation is about consistency. But all of us know that success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Mr. Lakshminarayan said very clearly that there is no shortcut to success. And you would have heard that again. This is not the first time you're hearing it, nor would it be the last time you hear it. You will hear it thousands of times. But I can vouch that, whenever we go and make a speech like this, after this biodata is talked about, then immediately people will come and say, what book are you reading? I normally say that it is not as simple as that. It's just that if I tell you a book that I read and you read that book, that doesn't guarantee success at all, right? And each of us is made differently. And it is about your own hard work. It is your own effort that makes a difference. So there are 3 mantras that I want to talk about. I watch my decisions. I earn my trust. I intensify my effort. Why am I saying this? To specifically add a personal anecdote of mine, you would have heard my biodata being read out and being a ranker and gold medalist and all that. But that has not been the reason for the joyful life that I have been able to lead. there was a fundamental mistake that I did as a school student and even in my college, which I learned for probably in my early 20s, and thankfully that has helped me a lot. During college, I was constantly competing with others because I wanted to get the first rank. I did not realize that these 40 people are not going to be the people who would be competing with you in the rest of your life. It was such a, looking back, I feel a little uncomfortable. I would say even a little ashamed to say that all I could think of was to compete with 40 other people and get the first rank and feel that that was a phenomenal achievement. Not at all. So was it in the college. It's a great aspirational point to feel that you must be competitive. But you know who you must be competing with? In my mid-20s, I learned that I must be competing with myself, that I must be a better version of what I was yesterday. And that was liberation. Because till then, when I was competing with others and I always wanted to get the first rank, I would be not very forthcoming in what I wanted to share because I was always concerned that I should be the one who's getting the limelight and I should be the one who's getting the first rank. And that was a phenomenal amount of stress that I was carrying, which was actually making my life a little imbalanced. The moment I realized when I came to the world of work that it is not about just putting in some effort and getting the first rank, I slowly changed, and I'm very thankful to my mentors who told me that I'll have to compete with myself. Competition by itself is not bad, but if you compete constantly with somebody else in your mind, that's a constant source of stress. But if you can compete with yourself, raise the bar for yourself, and ensure they're moving up on a regular basis, that becomes a phenomenal liberating point. Not only that, you can look at other people, take benchmarks. There is nothing wrong about it. At the end of the day, if you find somebody a little more hardworking in terms of how they are doing it, you can check up how they are doing it. If you find somebody who articulates very well, you can try to learn from them, even imitate them to some extent till you have your own style. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, compete with yourself. There will be scores, there will be marks, there will be ranks, because that is how the educational system is made to ensure how you are coping with whatever is given to you. But at the end of the day, the world out there is so large that at the end of the day, you are still young people in the seashore playing with seashells. Ships are not meant to be in the anchor. Just in the anchor is something that you would have heard. You will have to set sail, and smooth seas don't make good sailors. The rougher the seas, the better sailors you would be. And how do you handle that from now on? If these 2 years, you can prepare yourself extremely well with just these 3 thoughts. Constantly watch your decisions. Constantly see whether I can make a better decision than the thought process of the decision is better than how I did it yesterday. Constantly see whether you're earning trust from people. Constantly check for yourself whether you're acting trustworthy. Constantly intensify your efforts to say that nothing can substitute hard work, and compete with yourself. And this, I would say, while it does sound like advice, I must admit that all the faces I see on the screen have a lot more of energy, enthusiasm, effervescence, right? And the kind of excitement of joining a new course, which I don't think I, as a speaker, can match. But there is one E that maybe people like Mr. Lakshminarayanan and I have, and that is experience. That one additional E is something that we are trying to translate and encapsulate in this 20-25 minute speech that can make a difference for you. This is something that can be talked about at length in greater detail because it is very individualistic, and each of you will relate to these mantras very differently. So coming to your age, many of you may have seen this brain and heart cartoon of Awkward Yeti, right? Which was introduced to me by somebody your age. And then I realized that it's a wonderful series of cartoons on how the head and how the heart constantly are fighting against decision making. Even that, which is so fabulous, which is relevant to your age group. I didn't know it till about 6 months back. Till actually somebody from your age group put it in their PPT and I said, what is this? I woke up to the fact that this is a fabulous way of looking at yourself, which means even a very interesting cartoon like that can translate into how you're looking at making your own decisions. How are you matching your head and the heart? Because at the end of the day, it is not what you learn or just your IQ that is going to matter. It is going to be your IQ, your intelligence quotient, your EQ, your emotional quotient, and your SQ, your social quotient, all of which will matter together, which means success will come when you balance and harmonize your head, your heart, and your hands. All the three heads, the head, the hands, and the heart will have to be balanced. And that's why I said for the head, watch your decisions. For the heart, earn your trust. For the hands, intensify your effort. And if you do these three very constantly over these 2 years, you're bound to see the alchemy happen, where your potential energy that you are so full with will translate into kinetic energy, and the spirit that you have as an individual, as a leader, as a professional, as a manager, in whatever role you take up, you will come out in flying colors. And the higher you fly, your teachers, your institution will only be proud. And I think this is a huge opportunity that you must seize and make best use of it in the next 2 years of time. Online, offline, doesn't matter. Learning to learn can happen, and we can ensure that just by being a little more introspective, you will be able to link everything that even Mr. Lakshminarayanan said to what is going to happen in the outside world, to how you can make it benefit yourself as an individual. With these words, I wish you all the very best as you set sail on these seas, really as sailors subsequently. But right now, for the next 2 years, ensure that you watch your decisions, earn your trust, and intensify your effort. Let all success and prosperity and plenitude be yours forever. All the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Decision, trust, and effort. Very insightful, highly thought-provoking, sir. We have a couple of questions. Hope you would mind take my questions from the students. So first question is from the Jawahar PK. His question is, he wants to start a chain of restaurants. That's his vision, and to do better in the MSME sector. And he's confused about taking a campus placement job or to start straight away. So what's your advice for him? He's asking for your advice.
Yeah. Actually, talking to 180 people to just give an advice like that may not be the wisest of things to do, but I will still take a dab at it. There are 2 points to it. It's wonderful that college students have this ambition to become entrepreneurs, but I think if you have worked in some form or the other under somebody, you will definitely make a better leader elsewhere. I found that people have always worked under somebody else for some time, actually make phenomenal leaders because they have learned from that. Many times, even in family businesses, they ensure that the next generation works with an uncle or with somebody else for at least a year or 2 to gain that experience. That's a thought that you may want to park. Secondly, I think one constant point that I may want to advise all students is learn to have a business plan in place. Learn to have how you can put some numbers in place to say whether that is profitable. I should share this instance with you that the first year when I was a guest faculty in a management college, this was about 15 years back, there will be 12 students during the break coming and saying, sir, all of us want to start business. So I also spent about 45 minutes with each of them trying to explain all the details, and then they didn't take it very seriously. And they would just not come back on that at all. The moment I started telling people that you will have to put a business plan and have some numbers in place, they thought it was too much of hard work. But business is about numbers. Business ultimately is about metricizing your success through profits and cash in the bank. And cash in the bank and profits are not bad words, because that is what drives the wheels of business. All the more so for an MSME, where, as you can see today, extremely dependent on the cash balance they have. My suggestion will be, please ensure that you draft it as a business plan. Check out that business plan and how you want to do it. If you want to intern on it in some place where people are already in that activity, try to do that so that you're reporting to somebody and understanding operations. And that is why I said, wishing without action can only be a daydream. Do not let your plan end up as a daydream. Ensure that you have put in enough effort, starting with a business plan and a profit plan for 2-3 years, and see if you can work or intern in some place which can give you that experience. And that's a standard answer for anybody who wants to start a business in any area that they would look at. This is my personal take on that.
Great, sir. Next question is from Femina. Now, you know that banks are our major recruiters, HDFC, Axis, ICICI Bank. Her question is this: so how will be the banking sector in the future? Now, because you being the member of the board member of the Indian Bank, so what about the bank jobs and banking sector in the future? So what's the nature of the jobs is going to be? Your take on this?
Again, I think Mr. Lakshminarayanan has already answered that in a very different level. These sectors are going to thrive for sure, right? There is business is at the end of the day about commerce, right? And commerce does not exist without banks. The nature of the banks, the way they would take their shape could be a little different depending on how it goes across, but the banking sector is bound to thrive. The banking sector has to be there if there has to be trading and commerce happening well. So I have no doubts about the future of the banking sector. Having said that, at the end of the day, you as an individual, how you will climb the ladder in a banking sector is something that you may want to look at, because increasingly banking sector is also becoming pretty competitive. From a financial sector perspective, there's a lot of competition. So if you want to rise up the ladder, a lot more of learning, a lot more of awareness, a lot more of understanding of how it works is very important. Please do your homework. Again, right now, start intensifying your effort if that is your dream, to understand how banking works. Do not say that whatever is taught in the academics as part of banking is all I will learn. Try to read a little more about banking, read about that in terms of articles, in terms of whatever appears in the media, to form your own view and have discussions on that as you move forward wherever possible. And definitely banking sector has a very, very bright future in mind.
The next question is from Muthuraman. Is quite skeptical about the online classes. He wants your opinion. All right. So, do you think really the online classes can replace the physical classrooms? On its impact of on the students with respect to the online classes. Your take on this, please. Yeah.
The grass is always greener on the other side. There is no doubt about it. So, I think today when we are going ahead with online classes, there is no option at all. Right? So if you ask me whether online classes can completely replace a full-blown in-campus class, particularly for MBA, I would say may not be possible. It is neither desirable nor feasible. I mean, in that sense, if you look at it, it's neither desirable nor feasible, because MBA is not just about learning. At the end of the day, it is just about listening to a couple of people. There is so much of YouTube videos that are available on any topic that you want, with multiple dimensions that are available, and you might as well listen to that. MBA is not about that, or for that matter, college life is not about that. It is also about a social interaction, about the way you involve in extracurricular activities, the way you interact with other people, the way you look at yourself vis-a-vis other people, in terms of how you're earning your trust and how you're building a profile for yourself. I think right now there is no option, and therefore all of us are going ahead with online sessions. A combination of offline and online. Now let's look at it this way. It is, why don't we say this and that rather than this or that? The advantages of online, as the earlier speaker said, is that today anybody anywhere in the world you can listen to. Let's not lose that benefit, right? The online advantage is that today anybody sitting anywhere. Even for this, if it had been an in-person class, some of us would have had so many calendar challenges in handling it, but now it becomes easier when it is online. So there are situations like this where online definitely helps, particularly when you want to listen to people internationally and even interact with them internationally. We should not miss out on that. Secondly, that can be a method of how online becomes a part of our way of life, and the earlier we get used to it, the better it is that way, right? Therefore, online is here to stay. Online will grow, and online classes will also have to be part of it. Online learning sessions will have to be part of it. Having said that, will it fully replace offline for a full-time course? I personally believe will not happen. Offline will also be important, and there is a way in which the combination, we will figure out the combination. Why did Manjula mention that you are a historic batch? At some level, there will be a little bit of an experimentation happening here and there. You know, I heard Gautam Suttar giving you some instructions before I joined. And you know, you were being prepared for how this course should happen and what are the do's and don'ts, and we will learn from that. For example, when we said good morning, all of us unmuted and said good morning. So is that the best way to do it? Is there a better way to do it? We'll learn next time. So that way we will definitely make it much more interesting as it moves forward, but online will definitely have limitations. It has to be combined with offline.
The next question is from R. Priyadarshini. Can you please tell us how can I improve my decision-making skills?
That is a matter of a separate seminar, right? Okay. Step number one is to look at yourself. Today, if you have to go to Chennai, first you should know you are in Madurai. So right now, I will not get into a detailed discussion on that. I will only say that look at yourself as to how you're making decisions right now. Are you a quick decision maker? Are you a postponer? Are you a person who gets confused with decisions? Are you comfortable that if your parents take your decision, you will simply agree? Or are you a person, just because your parents are taking a decision, you will oppose it, right? Each of us has different patterns in terms of how we look at decisions. Step number one, understand where you are. The rest, I think we will talk about it if we have the time at some point of time, because it's a very, very major subject by itself.
Sure, sir. We have the last question from Sri Varshini Balaji. Our generation, she claims that our generation is, subjected to a lot of stress, and we are much more vulnerable. That's what she, feels. Can you give us something about the stress management? Give us some tips. A similar question from Vignesh Sundar as well. How we can motivate ourselves, to continue to stay motivated? Give us something, some tips or something like that to stay focused.
Okay, I'm not a motivational guru to just come up with some tips like that, but I will share one or two thoughts that have helped me broadly. Number one, the moment you compete with yourself and you're not competing with others, as a thought, please think about it in greater depth. We are constantly comparing ourselves with others, or the world is comparing us with others, whichever way it is, and we succumb to it. The moment you understand that you are gold by yourself, each of us has tremendous potential. The potential could be a little different, but each of us has tremendous potential. That itself can be a very liberating thought. At least for me, the moment I realized I was competing with myself and not with others was one of the most liberating thoughts I've ever had in my life, and I'm sharing that with you. That's number one. Number two, please ensure that you have a hobby. Right from now, you may say there is no time at all. But if you cannot spend half an hour for yourself on something, right? If it could be talking to friends, it could be mindless, it could be meaningless, it could be whatever at this point in time. Maybe as you grow older, you will have a little more understanding of what really engages you better, but have a hobby. Third, most important in my view, have a friend, right? Talking to a friend is actually talking to yourself in a mirror. Because you are sure, when I say a friend, I do not mean the social media likes and friends, okay? Then you have thousands of friends. So it's like water everywhere, not a drop to drink. That's how I see the friends in the social media, where you post something for 10,000 likes and 10,000 friends, but you can't open your heart to somebody. But have one friend to whom you can open your heart. So it's like, if you can go and give him the grain and the chaff together, you should know that he will blow away the chaff and only take the grain. You can talk nonsense to him, but you will know in heart of hearts that he will blow away the nonsense and only retain the sense. One friend can make a phenomenal difference, right? And I mean, and for that, we must be trustworthy. I earned my trust mantra works there also, because you can't say, I don't have friends. Have you attempted to be a friend to somebody else? Is where it begins again. If you can be a great friend to somebody else, I'm sure you will get one good friend can make a phenomenal difference, right? So competing with yourself, having a hobby, having a friend can be huge stress busters.
Sorry again, sir. This is the last question. So he says, a question from Kani Balan. He says that why you chose Madurai to have a company as headquarters, where most of the companies move to Chennai or Bangalore or other metros. Why you chose remain to be in Madurai? So with that question, we can.
That's a very simple answer. I was born, brought up, and completely did my education in Madurai. I've never been out of Madurai, honestly. All my 50 and odd years, I've been in Madurai completely, and it was a natural choice. Reason number two was, getting into it in a little depth. When I completed my CA and got the first rank, there were lots of people who said, how did you do it from Madurai? So there was that question, in a 22, 23, when somebody asks you a question like this, you actually feel a little irritated and angry. Why not from Madurai? What is wrong with Madurai? Was the thought that I had at that point of time. Today, looking back, I feel it was a silly, immediate response, but that's how I thought about it and said, we're as good as anybody else in the tier 1 cities, and it's possible that we can build a multinational company from India also. That was definitely a triggering thought. And honestly, our entire leadership team are all from tier 2 cities, tier 2, tier 3 cities. I'm very proud to say that they've done a phenomenal job in building an organization, which again reiterates that geography, increasingly even today, with so much of internet, travel and communication connectivity, geography shouldn't be a constraint.
Thank you, Dr. Bharat sir. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. In fact, each time I hear from you, I learned a lot of new things, right? So thank you very much. Sutar, please take it over.
Thank you so much, Balaji. Thank you. Thanks to all the students. It was a pleasure talking to you. I would have loved to say it was a pleasure seeing you and talking to you fully, but I've been able to see only 40 or 50 students at a time. All the very best. Have a wonderful future.
Thank you, sir. There are so many other questions are there. So I want to convey our students that both Lakshminarayanan sir and Bharat Krishnan sir, there are board members. Not only board members, they are also guiding lights for us. For every step of TSM, they are guiding us. You will get enormous chances in future to interact with them. So don't worry about your questions. We will take it forward. So thank you, Bharat sir. We will definitely incorporate your 3 mantras with 3 H's. And your insightful sessions are very, very helpful to our students, these teams. Now I request our director, sir, to say a few words to our students.
Good morning, everyone. At the outset, let me thank Mr. Lakshminarayanan and Dr. Bharat for conveying wonderful message to the students and the faculty members who are listening as well. Now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the students through the gates of TSM. I consider you fortunate since we had applications from more than 100 participants, more than 1,000 students to join the program, and you are one among the luckiest few. Now, if you look at TSM, it began with the noble aim to impart holistic management education to future generation of managers, who then play a vital role as the change agents of the nation. Now, that's what Lakshminarayanan and Dr. Bharat were conveying. And TSM firmly believes that the knowledge assimilated by you during your time at TSM would enable you to adapt to the uncertainties and the challenges that confront you. And TSM strongly believes in its motto, learn to learn. Now, I'm going to outline the skills, the characteristics that you will develop, that you will acquire, when you are going to be there at TSM would be pretty much in line with what Mr. Lakshminarayanan and Dr. Bharat were discussing. One is, these skills and characteristics will help you grow in your career and life. The ability to comprehend local and global business environments. Sound knowledge in different functional areas of business and how these areas interface with each other. The ability to critically analyze business problems and take effective decisions in a manner that adds value to the organizations. The ability to communicate effectively. The ability to work in a team and possess necessary leadership and entrepreneurial skills. Now, being ethical and having high level of integrity. The ability to use digital technology to use business objectives and have lifelong learning skills. Now, these are all some of the skills characteristics that hopefully you will acquire during your time at the TSM. In addition to all these skills, I personally aspire TSM students to be good human beings. I'm confident that the next 2 years of your life will be the years that you will cherish for the rest of your life. I would like to end my address with my favorite quote from Swami Vivekananda, which I follow very closely. Stand up, be bold, be strong. Take the whole responsibility on your shoulders and know that you are the creator of your own destiny. All the strength and succor you want are within you. You need to have a strong belief in yourself. Okay, if you have that, of course, you are going to have major success. Okay, with this short note, I welcome you again to TSM and all the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our principal, madam, to extend the vote of thanks.
Good morning, one and all. Thank you very much, Dr. Sudha. I wish to render a heartfelt gratitude to our beloved former chairman, late Sri Manikam Ramaswamy, whose commitment to society has given us all an opportunity to be a part of this great temple of learning. Our sincere gratitude to our current chairman, Sri B.T. Bangera, and our correspondent, Madam Mrs. Valli Ramaswamy, for driving us towards our goal without being perturbed by any of the environmental pressures due to the challenging times. Our special thanks to our members of the BOG, Sri Lakshminarayanan sir to start with, who has been a source of energy for us always, And today he has given us the most heartwarming message that India is going to be the most populous country in the year 2022 when you are all going to be on the field. He has given us an outside-in perspective as to what will be the scenario in future. He has used a lens to help us understand what is expected of us. Thank you, sir. I wish to extend my special thanks to Dr. Bharat, as has been always said, for his passionate and inspirational messages. He has given us practical tips and key inputs as to what are the means through which we can get into our ways to achieve our goals. So he has given us an inside-out perspective to compete with ourselves and get liberated from the stress created due to external environment. Our special thanks to our director for being a ready reference and a ready role model for us who walks his talk and is available for us at any times. He has been our pillar of strength and support. My thanks to the admission team and chairperson Dr. Manjula for bringing us this 180 power-packed young aspirants into our forte. Our special thanks to the deans, the chairpersons for being there all through and their contagious levels of commitment and energy. And thanks for the stupendous efforts in bringing a program on the special day. Our special thanks to our faculty colleagues for being constant source of support to us. And thanks to the admin team and the staff support all through this program. Last, I would say, for all, our leaders have been emphasizing is on the preparation that we need to do. So when preparation meets the opportunity, probably that is what we'll be looking forward. I would like to end this day with a small quote by Edwin Markham, who says, "For all days be prepared and meet them ever alike. For when you are the anvil, bear. When you are the hammer, strike." So this is for us, time for us to prepare ourselves. Let's all work together for a wonderful level of preparation for the next 2 years. Welcome you all once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can you all clap for just 10 seconds, right? Can you all of you unmute and clap for 10 seconds? Just to extend gratitude to our speakers, right? You unmute and clap for 10 seconds. Thank you very much. Sudhar?
Yeah. Sir, so we have lots more exciting speaker series there in the coming days. So I request all the students and faculty members to stay online till our chief guest will leave. So, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharat sir. Thank you, Lakshmi sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So all of you be ready for the second afternoon sessions. So let's leave.
Okay.
Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you, Sudhar. Good. See you, sir. That is it. Thank you. See you, all of you.
Thank you. Best
Bye.
wishes, ma. Best wishes.
All the best, students.